Good day, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to my casa. Welcome to my home in Livingston, Montana. You know what? I've decided that I'm a very boring YouTuber. Yeah, I have a very boring channel, and I know it too, but I don't care. I've decided I'm going to try something a little bit different on my channel just for the hell of it. I've decided I'm 67 years old, okay? I've had a very colorful life, let's put it that way. Being a Vietnam veteran, married for 40 some years, 3 kids, 6 grandkids. I've got a lot of hunting and fishing stories, especially. But I've decided that I'm going to start telling a story once in a while. I'm not going to do it all the time, but I figured it'd put a little flavor into my channel, you know. And these stories are not made up. You know, I could make some of this stuff up if I had to. Okay, but anyway, here's my first story in this series of telling stories. This is a story about a grizzly bear attack. Maybe I should call it a semi-attack because the grizzly bear never did complete its mission, but here's the story. I grew up in a place called Mission Valley up in northwestern Montana. That's by St. Ignatius, Polson, Ronan. It's just right on those places there are located right on would be the west side of the mighty Rocky Mountains. Okay. I used to regularly, as a kid, as a young feller, attended church. It was the Nazarene Church of Pablo, Montana. I didn't have any choice in the matter because my mom, she wanted to make sure that she was going to make good Christians out of us little heathens. That's fact. That's fact. Okay. The pastor of Pablo, Montana, you guys can Google all that stuff. It's right out there before God and everybody to see. But Pablo, Montana at that time was only a little town of about 300 people. And anyway, there's this young fellow that took over the church. His name was Pastor Larry Bream. B-R-E-A-M. I do believe is how you spelled his last name. He was a young fella, nice young wife, and 2 really small kids. I remember that all too well. And Mr. Bream, Pastor Bream, thought it would be a good idea if he rounded up the young people in his church, which there wasn't that many of us, believe you me, all us little hooligans, and took us on an outing, took us on a Boy Scout trip, took us on a camping trip, okay? That's fact. And what was my age? I was thinking about that before I started up this video. I don't think I was past 15 years of age. I was right around in there, 14, 15 years of age, okay? Now, what Pastor Bream did is he gathered up this old fellow by the name of Mr. Ashley. I never did know what Mr. Ashley's name was. I think his first name was Fred. I just had a flash in my weak little mind here, but Mr. Ashley was an Indian fella. He was also a very good hunter, and especially, you know, he had taken several bears in his day. In fact, quite a few bears, it was my understanding, you know. And so Pastor Bream had asked Mr. Ashley if he would come along because Pastor Bream wanted to take us to a place called Mission Falls Reservoir in back of the city or the small town of St. Ignatius, Montana. Just Google it. You'll catch right on to what I'm talking about. Mission Falls Reservoir. And that area over there, right up against the western side of the Rockies, was plumb full of grizzly bears. That's fact. And that's why Pastor Bream wanted Mr. Ashley to come along because Mr. Ashley had a nice 308 rifle. He was Indian. He knew the way of the bears, etc., etc. You know, okay, just setting the scene here. So it was about like I don't know, 20, from Pablo to St. Ignatius, Montana, to where we went camping back up in there. It was like 20, 25 miles, something like that, you know. But we went back on the other side of the reservoir where the inlet came in, where the water that fed the reservoir came in, and we went as far up as the road would take us, and then we had to camp. Couldn't go any further because that was where the trail had started, okay? And Pastor Bream brought, I was trying to remember how, because this happened a lot of years ago, and I was trying to remember how many kids there was. There was somewhere around 6 of us, I want to say. 6, no more than 8 of us. And we ranged from about, I'd say 12 years of age up to about 16. Something like that. Anyway. Okay, we get up there, and this is the first night, because Pastor Bream had planned on, he was going to have us camped out up there for about, 3 days, because he wanted to make sure that, we got the word on Jesus, and all this fun stuff. Now, I'm not trying to be funny here, but I'm just telling you the way it was, back in the day, Anyway, we're way back up, by the trailhead. We're missing the headwaters, the Mission Falls Reservoir was, and all this kind of stuff. Well, us kids, we didn't want to be around the adults, you see. We wanted to kind of be off and be able to do our own thing. So we pitched our camp kind of down this little hill, like 20 yards, 25, maybe 30 yards away from where Pastor Bream and Mr. Ashley was going to be camping up there by the cars, you see. We went down there and carefully laid out our sleeping bags, and pretty soon it got dark that night. And this happened on the very first night that we were up there, but anyway, so, because, like I say, we stayed for 2 or 3 days, that, us kids were down there by the creek, and that water that was feeding that reservoir was really roaring out of them mountains. It was pretty loud. You had a hard time even talking to each other without yelling. But here we are like a bunch of heathens, because we were a bunch of heathens, laying around these sleeping bags, telling dirty jokes, and, well, might as well just be blunt here, and farting and laughing and act like a bunch of hyenas and jackasses, because just being kids, okay? Let me back off from the Mr. Funny business there, but that, and it got dark. I remember that all too well. Matter of fact, it was this whole thing happened right around about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and believe you me, even though it was in the summertime, we were back in the timber and everything, and once that sun goes down up in these mountains, if you're, depending on where you're at, it can get a lot darker than if you're out somewhere where it's really flat. You stop and think about it for a minute, you'll catch right on. But anyway, we're down there by the creek with our little boy camp, and all of a sudden we looked up, we could hear a bunch of screaming and hollering, and we looked up the hill, and there's old Pastor Bream up there and Mr. Ashley, and they're waving, they're up, get up here, come up, all that kind of stuff. And we're down there thinking we done something wrong, and so we go ahead tearing up out of our sleeping bags and that, and we get up there and they go, Mr. Ashley, they were both talking at us at the same time, and they told us to get our little keisters in the cars. Now, I remember Mr. Ashley had a pickup up there, and Pastor Bream brought his station wagon up there. And most of us kids piled in Pastor Bream's station wagon because there was more room, but we started saying, yeah, but what about our sleeping bags and all this other stuff? And they go, forget your sleeping bags. There's a bear out here. That's what they were freaking out about. Mr. Ashley, being an Indian fella, he knew doggone well the signs, the smells, the whatever have you. And they stopped us kids in them cars and whatnot have you. And I remember this all too well. There's old Mr. Ashley sitting out there on the tailgate of his pickup, had his tailgate down. He had his trusty old 308 rifle, 308 NATO. I got one. You know, he had his 308, and it was dark, but you know, he wasn't that far away, and I could see his silhouette, and I knew what he was doing and everything like that. Well, what us kids did, because we were inquisitive little buzzards, you know how you are when you're a kid, we cracked the windows in that station wagon, we rolled the windows down about that far, and everything, because Pastor Bream and Mr. Ashley made sure we were cooped up and we were safe in those cars, but we wanted to hear what was going on. And oh my God, there was the angriest, noisiest, grunting and whooping and growling that you could possibly imagine. And that's what I heard, you know, and I heard limbs breaking, twigs snapping, you know, it was a really an extremely large amount of noise. And this stuff was only going on probably about 30 yards from where our vehicles were set. No more than 30 yards, 35 yards maybe. I'll tell you what old Mr. Ashley did. He just threw it around in that 308, pointed it right out there in the dark, even though it was plumb dark, and he discharged a couple of rounds. No kidding. And after a while, everything got awful quiet, you know, and Mr. Ashley told us, he said, okay, we're safe now. He says, I'm pretty sure I ran that bear off and all that kind of stuff. Now, this was so many years ago, I can't remember if they made us sleep in the vehicles or if we went down and got our sleeping bags or, you know, down by the creek or what the deal was. But anyway, we went down. If memory serves me correctly, we slept in, I think us kids ended up sleeping in Pastor Bream's station wagon. But bright and early the next day, boy, we popped up and we wanted to know what was going on in the show out in the woods, you know. So, Mr. Ashley, he said, come on, kids, let's go out here and check things out, you know. So we walked only about, 30, 40 yards away from our vehicles, and there was an area that was probably a good 25 to 30 feet across, for sure. A big circle, 25 to 30 feet in diameter, something like that, maybe even 40 feet. And that bear had torn the H-E-L-L out of everything in sight. I mean, he tore up, or he, whatever, had tore up willows, knocked over small trees, shredded all kinds of plants and everything. I mean, it looked like a big, gigantic weed eater had went through the woods right there and just tore up everything. No kidding. But, Mr. Ashley, he'd seen all that, but he had his nose stuck on the ground because he was looking for something else. He was looking for sign, and he finally found what he was after, and that was blood, plain and simple. He found splotches of blood here and there until it, trailed off into the woods. And the bottom line is he'd hit that bear, even though he did not see that bear, he could not see that bear, but he was convinced that, he got around into that bear. And do I believe, and that's all this story is, nothing else happened. But what I want to impress on anybody that's watching this video is the fact that bear really tore up a lot of real estate. And if Mr. Ashley hadn't have been there, do I believe that bear would have come into camp? I know he would have come into camp. Something set that grizzly bear off. That bear was madder than all hell at something. That's why I keep saying on my channel, they're unpredictable. You never know what they're going to do, and you don't either. Anybody that's been attacked by one will tell you the same thing. That's why I'm heavily armed when I go up in the woods. This is just one of several bear stories I got. I never ever forgot the amount of destruction that bear did. It was like it was on the prowl. It was like it went into a rage, okay? That's what I'm trying to say. Why? Who can say? Grizzly bears are unprotectable. But if it wouldn't have been for that buckskin, and I say that with all due respect, I have a lot of respect for the North American Indians. I'm part Indian myself. But if it wouldn't have been for Mr. Ashley, I think we'd have had a real fight on our hands with a grizzly bear, but he ran that bear off. So that's the end of the story. Well, I'll tell you this much. We didn't really like the fishing up at that high because the water was running way too doggone fast, so we talked the pastor into taking us down close to the reservoir because we knew that the fishing would be better down there, which it was. So we just spent the one night there with the bear encounter, and the next couple of nights we spent, it was like, I want to say like a couple miles down the road, I guess, before you got to the reservoir there, before that, that creek dumped into Mission Falls Reservoir is what that place is called. Okay, that's a grizzly bear story for you. Just one of several I have. Thank you very much for listening to my story, ladies and gentlemen. Take care of yourselves, and like I always say, we'll see you on down the trail.